My name is Lyline. I'm engineering program manager at Algolia. For some context, I used to be an embedded software engineer for 11 years, and I decided to transition to a more people-focused position and became engineering program manager at Algolia. So this role may have several meanings depending on the company. At Algolia, it means that I'm taking care of initiatives that are transverse to the company, especially engineering department. For example, typically I'm working on improving collaboration within engineering department and with other departments, like quarterly alignment on projects. I'm also responsible to put in place initiatives around skills improvements, like for example, mentoring, coaching, and co-development approaches, like I'm going to talk to you about today. So we're going to go through the initial needs, the co-dev approach that we used, and the return on experience that we found at Algolia. At Algolia, we have some specific context, like in the last 4 years, we had a multiplication by 8 of our R&D resources, meaning that 2 years ago, we started to introduce engineering management in the department. And at some point, we transitioned from one manager to 17 managers in 24 months. This is a very specific context, meaning that at some point, we really needed to focus on improving management skills. And at this stage, you really need to put everything that is possible to make the management practice improve and become efficient and reliable over time. What we were already doing was providing books, providing trainings, providing digital trainings, providing coaching, mentoring with other providers, and also every time you always have your manager helping and providing guidance to you. The thing is, management is hard. There's a lot of stuff to think about. You have to make sure the team deliver, you have to hire, you have to evaluate performances, nourish people in their career, promote. They also have difficult conversation and handle conflicts. Whatever your experience, whatever the books and training you attended, you don't have all the answer. We don't have all the answer because that's human and that's okay. It's totally expected, right? Because management is not just only applying tips and tools that you found or learned. It's also adapting to your company culture, your team, which is very specific, and your own personality as well. At some point, we just observed that among our 17 engineering managers, practices were very different. And some people had situations to handle, and some other people had some piece of answers. So we wanted actually our manager to talk together, to bring a new resource for them to use and improve their skills. So we were aiming at leveraging our managers as a team. Because of the hypergrowth, each team and each manager were very much focused on how the team was growing, how the team was delivering. And at some point, we kind of ended up with silos between teams, even though within the teams they were working very well. So we wanted to add this kind of cohesion at the management layer. Typically, this team, the goal was to make them improve on their manager skills together, align on what is a manager at Algolia, what does it mean in terms of culture and expectation. We wanted to break the silos between the team and make sure people are able to collaborate and talk together within their business day-to-day job, but also outside of it. And we wanted to improve the team spirit between managers and make sure that they were able to talk to each other, ask for help, ask for advice, and improve the spirit of the team. How? Actually, when you want people to share, you need to create a safe space. You need to gather a diverse group so that we don't share only the same point of view, but have diverse angles, diverse background, diverse experiencing, crossing each other. This is a time and space where they can share their best practice and experiences. They can ask for help, ask for a second opinion, gather new ideas, and also practice their soft skills, which is something very important for the management role. So we chose to use co-development framework. Co-development framework is coming from Canada. It's spreading very widely internationally and very quickly. It's mainly used at animating community of practices. So here we talk about engineering management, but it can be any community of practice that you may want to animate more or give some energy to the group. Generally, the group is from 3 to 8 people. It's recommended to have a facilitator. The facilitator's role here will be to take note, time box, and frame the meeting. People attending to the meeting are either client or consultant during the meeting, and it's rotating, so it's not always the same client, not always the same consultant. Some basic rules to implement co-development is to create a safe space. When you create a safe space, it means that people in the room are able to share their success, their failure, their learnings, and show their vulnerability. This is really key for the co-development session to work fine. Also, everything that is said during the session is confidential, meaning that for any case, it can be difficult or just about learning new stuff. Everything that is said is confidential. So you don't end up discussing about a topic you discuss during the session outside of it. And it's always in a growth mindset, meaning that no judgment is expected here. People in the room are here to learn, they are here to exchange, to share, and it is in order to grow together. Co-development process has 6 steps. Explore, clarify, contract, explore, synthesize, and integrate. We're going to go through the 6 of them. And before, there's actually a little round table to select the subjects. You come in a room and people ask you, what's your biggest challenge currently? This question is pretty tricky because you have to introspect yourself and also share your doubts and frustration with the group. So even if the subject is not, your subject is not selected, you still have shared a piece of yourself, a piece of your mindset right now with the group, and that is already something very valuable. At the end of the roundtable, the group decide on which subject will be covered during the session, and they agree on who's going to be the client, and the other become consultants. Step 1, the client exposes the situation. At this stage, only the client speaks. We are talking about active listening from the consultant and not interrupting him. What we observe at this stage is that having 10 minutes for the client to expose the situation without interruption forces the client to go deeply into the situation and not staying at the surface. Clarify, that is where the consultants are allowed to ask questions. No suggestions are expected here. What people tends to do is try to persuade of their solution because they think about a previous experience they had and they think about sharing the tool they know. But actually the first step is really to understand and not to persuade. So having this kind of question, like how do you feel about that, will help working on empathy. What did you put in place and what was the reaction? Really capture the actions taken, used and put in place and the reaction of the system itself. What do you see that they don't see? Helps reflecting on self-understanding from someone who may not understand the reaction of other people. The contract is, how can this group help? This is a group of engineering managers. They don't have all the power, right? If you have a problem with how the company works, this is different than if you have a problem with your team. Sometimes the control is outside of the group, but sometimes the client may expect the group to just listen and understand, give a second point of view, and confirm that his feelings of frustration are okay to be listened to and to be accepted and understand as they are. Explore is a time where the diversity of the group will really kick in and provide all the good stuff from it, meaning that people will share their reaction. Oh, this is a surprise to me, I didn't know about that. it was a concern actually, because maybe we need to change that. Or maybe I understand how you feel, I used to be like that always, also previously. So people share their reaction and their experience, and the discussion will just converge toward putting in place actionable items. This is where the actionable items are gathered during the synthesize phase. The facilitator will list the actionable item. One tool that is very interesting is the SMART criteria, so specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. They agree ideally on what's the action plan, and the client doesn't have to put them in place. They are just guidelines, right? And he would choose to use it or not. Integrate, the group will do a roundtable again and share what they learn. This stage is to allow the group to anchor their learning into the brain and also reflect on what this 1 hour meeting has bring to their own knowledge, career, personal learning. Using a return on time invested is a finger voting, finger grading. One is I learned very low, I almost wasted my 1 hour, and 5, I learned a lot, thank you for this meeting. So this is a really instant capture of the satisfaction of people that will help also the facilitator to know how to improve next time. Return on experience at Algolia. So we started the experiment 3 months ago with group from 5 to 8 people. So at the beginning it was 5, and then more and more people from other departments wanted to join. So we invited them. It's 1 hour every 2 weeks. So we have 3 different groups and 1 hour every 2 weeks for each group. We tried with and without facilitator, and we didn't make the attendance mandatory. At some point, we also thought about, capturing the learning within a session and creating like an article or something that gathers engineering manager knowledge to help others use this knowledge even though the session is done. What we learned is that the group composition of the group itself is important. We were looking for diversity. We were looking for safe space. So we avoided other reporting line, meaning that the managers and managees are not in the same group. We mix level of seniority and experience. We mix personalities as well, because if you put 5 people with the same personality, focus only on the same point of view, you will not have different point of view. Also, some people are naturally more confident with empathy, and some people are more confident with objectives, facts, and examples, so it's good to mix everything. Every 2 weeks, we wonder if it was a good frequency. Actually, there's subjects at every session, and sometimes it happens that people say, hey, I really have a bunch of work on, and I don't have I don't have subjects in mind, and the group actually don't have a subject. It's okay to cancel the session. With a facilitator, you have more focus and value bring during the session, because the senior manager will be here to share the practice instead of taking notes, maybe. So it's better to have a facilitator. Attendance is recommended, but it's really, really a career accelerator for first-timer. So it's really important to reinforce this idea to the first-timers. Create learning assets from the session, yes, but not at every session. Sometimes the subject is too critical, too confidential, too sensitive to create an asset from it. So let's not do that every time. Results, 15 sessions in 3 months, 4 attendees per session in average. Grades are now very high, like between 4 and 5 after 2 months already we had this. And other departments join, as I said. The impact, so here's a checklist of what we were aiming at. And so what we observe is that managers benefit from each other's experience. This is a fast and relevant learning because this is contextual. We are in the same company and we know the teams and the people inside. People have the opportunity to align an expectation, but also generated some reflection about the management practice we have at Algolia. We are doing like that today, but shouldn't we improve or evolve the way we're working as managers? It also helps fostering discussion outside of your day-to-day job, and reinforce link between managers. I wanted to share this quote from one of our senior managers. Every session reinforces the links between managers and reinforce my personal motivation to work for Algolia. So this is really key to show that really something more than just improving skills has happened. Something about linking people, something about creating cohesion between the team and reinforcing motivation, because there's a rapid growth. Individual rapid growth is very interesting. So to sum up, we really want to reinforce the management layer, management practices at Algolia. We have put in place a lot of resources already, but we wanted again to do more. We wanted also at the same time to foster team spirit, team building within the managers. And so we tried co-development session. It has a very high satisfaction rate. And we are really encouraging you to think about how would you put that in place in your company? Because right now you have all the slides and you have all the frameworks, so what's preventing you of doing this? Thank you.
We have some time for questions. Raise your hand if you have any. Don't be shy. Yes, one question there.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very inspiring. And I actually have a question regarding the breaking the silos. I'm not sure. I noticed that you were talking about the team of managers, and then each engineering manager had his own team. So aren't you actually afraid of creating a horizontal silo of engineering managers and then vertical silos of each individual teams?
So I'm not afraid of that, because the vertical silos are very strong right now. This is their day-to-day. They have to make sure the team delivers the product or technological stack they're expecting to produce. So the pressure mainly comes from this vertical side. On the horizontal side, this is something that is a side of their day-to-day concern. This is more something about growing their own career, improving their skills. So it's more a long-term objective, and the vertical one is a short-term objective. And I don't think the manager at some point will be in siloed, because it would mean that they will be totally disconnected from the teams and the delivery, which I don't think will ever happen. So I'm not really worried about that.
Thank you.
More questions? Yes. In the front.
Thank you very much. Has there been things that haven't worked? Actually, I noticed, for instance, you started with saying the groups should be between 5 and 8 people, and eventually you have like an average of 4 people per session, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So yeah, have there been some, I don't know, not bad surprises, but
Yes.
Things that haven't worked?
At the beginning, when we launched the program, sometimes people didn't really catch the interest of it, and sometimes we had like few times 2 people in the room.
Oh, that's why it's an average. So
Yeah. So at the beginning it happened a few times, but then at the end people come in more and more and have a bigger attendance.
Okay.
And so at the beginning several people were like, I don't really know if I'm gonna get any learning or if it's gonna be valuable to me. So I'm here, I'm checking how it goes, and if I like it, I'm gonna continue. And it was okay, because they wanted to know if really this was making them grow. If spending time with other managers was something that was creating more than just improving skills, but also this team building and having confidence to talk to when they have a difficult situation. And I think it pretty much worked after several months, and that's a good sign that at the beginning some meetings were maybe with low attendance, but now almost every meeting has for attendance at least, so it's pretty cool. Good sign.
Question there, please.
Thank you so much. I have a similar question around challenges you have in place, but I think it was answered. And it's always great to see Camille Fournier's book on that. So resources we love.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I have a question regarding, you said that for each session, there only one client, right?
Yeah.
And as I understood from your presentation, is that the whole discussion will be based on the client, what the problem they have, right? So like, did you had, like, I have two questions. Did you had something to measure, like, after the session, if that client were able to resolve their issue, or if that was helpful to them?
We don't have this after, well, how do you say, feedback about after implementing the actionable item. 3 months is pretty short for this kind of feedback, but yes, we already started to say, hey, next time, once you have implemented the action item, please come back to the session and let us know how it went. What did you learn? What was working and what was not working?
Yeah. So I think this mostly answer my second question, which is the outcomes of the session is not only to resolve the issue the client have, it is also like to make the team members collaborate together.
Exactly, you're right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Anna, it's your turn. Rames, Anna,
Thank you.